Group Pro Bowl selections are out. The Eagles have two Pro Bowlers this year, Darius Slay and Jason Kelce.
Both deserving, most definitely. Certainly some other well-deserving Eagles did not make it.
That's true. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. Ray Didinger will join us in a little bit to break down a game that was just 2 days ago, which doesn't seem possible. And we'll look ahead. Yeah, that is true. And we'll look ahead to the Giants game on Sunday. We also want to talk about Nick Sirianni being in the COVID protocol, what that might mean for the Eagles on Sunday if he can't come back. But Rube, let's start with the Pro Bowlers. Like you said, I mean, to me, Slay and Kelce were easy. I mean, those were the base level of Pro Bowl number for this team was those two. Then after that, there were some other guys who I thought had legitimate cases, and Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, Jake Elliott, Javon Hargrave are the guys that I think, it's always tricky when you talk about snubs, but without looking at who you would take off the list, and we'll get to that, those guys deserved consideration.
Yeah, I thought Hargrave. I mean, look, what you got? 8 sacks as an interior lineman. There's that was probably the most surprising to me. Although Lane Johnson not even being an alternate is, I just don't even know how that's possible. Has he given up a sack this year? Well, he's given up a sack.
He's been very good, and I guess the thing that worked against Lane and Jordan Mailata is that they each missed some time, obviously for different reasons. Maybe that hurt them, but with a guy like Lane and his reputation, you'd think that would at least get him, some alternate love. Here's the way I look at snubs is you have to say, all right, well, if you're going to say this guy deserves to be a Pro Bowler, then who comes off the list? I think that's a fair way to do it. So
sure.
I have some names in front of me. Do you want to go through position by position and those guys that we mentioned? So Dallas Goedert, it would have been tough for him to make this because George Kittle is a lock. And then Kyle Pitts, the rookie, has better numbers. He doesn't have the touchdowns, but he has better numbers. He's a first-round pick. If Zach Ertz hadn't been on the team at all this year, Dallas Goedert's a Pro Bowler right now.
No question about it. Goedert, since the trade, is on like 1,100-yard pace. I mean, his numbers have been incredible. Other than the one game, I mean, the Giants game, I think he had the one catch for no yards. Yeah. Other than that, and the last 2 games, over 100 yards, and he's got like a 15.2 yards per catch average, which is crazy for a tight end. He's got a higher average than Devontae and Quez. I mean, it's crazy. He's got the highest per catch average on the team. He's such a playmaker down the field, and we were talking about him earlier in the green room. He's not going to ever be that high volume Ertz type, first down machine, like 12 catches for, 86 yards and 6 first downs. But he's a playmaker down the field, and, you can see it. I mean, he's running routes that tight end. And plus, the guy's the best blocking tight end, one of the 2 or 3 best in the league. I mean, Kittle's tremendous as well, but certainly Kyle Pitts is nowhere near Dallas Goedert, and he's not even in the conversation as a blocker. He's got they don't vote on blocking, so they vote on the numbers. I do think next year, if Goedert's healthy, I don't see how he doesn't make this team. I still think he's going to make it this year because Kittle's banged up. He's been to Pro Bowls. I'm guessing he's going to drop out. And we don't know what alternate Goedert is, but I'm guessing he's the first alternate just from the numbers. Mm-hmm. So I think he's got a chance to go this year. You would think Pitts will want to go, being a rookie and everything. But Goedert certainly has played at a Pro Bowl level most of the year, and no doubt over the last 2 months.
Yeah, and look, I know the fans typically don't vote for tight ends for their blocking, but you would think other players and the coaches, which are now, that's 2/3 of the voting. Yeah, you would think they do. And Kittle, people rave about his blocking all the time. It's only fair to look at Goedert and say, well, he's doing that too for the best rushing team in football right now. So
right.
You can make a case that he deserves to be there over Pitts. You can make that case.
You can.
Yeah. A tackle, Trent Williams, I don't think anyone's going to argue against that. He's been playing at a ridiculous level. He's a guy that people thought was kind of like past his prime. And no, he's playing really well. And the other two, Tyron Smith and Tristan Wirfs. You can make a case that Lane deserves to be there over them. You can make a case that Mailata deserves to be there over them, but I'm not going to – it's kind of nitpicky because those other two guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah, but my thing is you have the best – probably the best rushing offense, one of the 2 or 3 best in the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. And pretty good pass blockers too. And how are they represented by one person? Like there's obviously none of the running backs are going to make it. They don't have the volume of work. So how's this great running game represented by Jason Kelce and nobody else? It doesn't seem right. And the Lane thing, the thing that gets me, and I don't know how deep they go on alternates. I mean, nobody voted for him? That's insane.
He's just playing so well. I mean, you can argue that this is one of his best seasons.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, since he's been back, he's been unbelievable.
Yeah. And, hopefully it wasn't the nature of his absence. Hopefully that, wasn't
I would hope not
a factor. I mean, who knows? When I saw that he wasn't a alternate, I thought it was a mistake, but it's, and, he's made 3 of them. So, it's not like he's never made one. And, this is his chance to finally make one. He's made 3, but I certainly thought he deserved to make it.
Yeah, and it's certainly a fair case. At defensive tackle, and this is the one, to me, you mentioned earlier, this is the snub. Because you have the 3 defensive tackles made it in the NFC. Aaron Donald, fair enough. he belongs there.
Not taking him off.
Not taking him off. Jonathan Allen deserves to be there too. I mean, he's a very, very good player. But Kenny Clark,
he got 4 sacks?
4 sacks. He has fewer sacks, tackles for loss, quarterback hits, and tackles. If Javon Hargrave, he got off to the hot start statistically, and then it tapered off. I think if he was in that run right now of playing that hot, I think he'd be in.
Yeah, I feel like it's usually the other way around, that if you get off to the hot start, you get the early publicity, you're leading in the far turn and all that stuff. And, but I still think Hargrave, as well as he's played, I think it's that old thing about, Fletcher. I think Fletcher maybe, and obviously Fletcher, his streak ended at 6. He didn't make it. And I don't think anyone really expected him to, but maybe the vote got split. Maybe some of the people that were going to vote for Hargrave voted for Fletcher, and they I don't know. I don't know, but I know it's certainly for Clark to make it over Hargrave it's just wrong. That's just flat out wrong.
Yeah, that's the one I have the biggest problem with when you look at who made the team and who you would take off. That was the one that stood out. And then at kicker, I know people wanted Jake Elliott to make it on his own, like in a vacuum. It's a Pro Bowl season, 24 of 26. One of those misses was blocked. 3 for 3 from 50 plus, 36 for 36 on extra points. But Matt Gay in Los Angeles is 28 for 29, 4 for 4 from 50. He did miss one extra point, but Elliott would have had to be significantly better to make the team over Gay on a winning team.
Yeah.
And
I think that's part of the issue here is that the Eagles haven't had a winning record all year other than the first week of the season. They were 2-5. They were getting blown out. I just think voters look at guys from winning teams.
Yeah.
I think and when most of the voting was going on, the Eagles were not even a 500 team. There's several games under 500. So I think that probably hurt a lot of guys.
Yeah. Jason Kelce made it though. And it's another little feather in his cap. He's going to end up in the Hall of Fame, isn't he, Rube?
I really think there's a good chance. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, and a Super Bowl.
Could be a 4th All-Pro coming.
There could be. There should be. And, that's really when you look at Hall of Fame, and people are like, well, that shouldn't be. It is. I mean, that's what voters look at.
Especially at a position like that doesn't have stats.
Exactly. The one thing that kills me is that he didn't make the team of the decade.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate honor short of the Hall of Fame. And if you make that, it really helps your Hall of Fame chances.
Who made it? It was Pouncey and Alex Mack.
Yeah, exactly.
He should have made it over Mack.
Yeah,
Pouncey,
Pouncey's. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
yeah.
gosh, what did he make his 10th Pro Bowl yesterday? I think.
He's certainly, um, yeah,
But
but he should have been in over Alex Mack. I think it was Alex Mack.
I think he was. And the thing about Kelce, and I want to ask Ray about him, but he just, the way he plays the game is so different than other centers. And the one play down the field really got a lot of run this week. I think the one thing that's going to help Kelce, and he's a media star nationally, and the media is who votes, and I think that stuff helps. I mean, we can pretend it doesn't, but
his brother helps, honestly, because his brother draws so much attention, and there's some peripheral attention around them being brothers, and all that. That'll help too.
Maybe. I wonder if it'll help Eli. But in the Super Bowl, I think he had such a huge role on that team, and stuff like we could laugh about it, but I mean the parade. I mean, this is a guy on the national stage. I mean, everybody in the country saw Jason Kelce, and just how much, and not just the speech, but just how much passion he plays the game with, how much passion he lives his life with, and the fact that he hasn't missed a game since 14. I mean, there's just so many things that are in his favor, and just from a very quantifiable basis, there's been 12 centers who've made 5 or more Pro Bowls and 3 or more All Pros. Everyone is in the Hall of Fame. Everyone that's eligible is in the Hall of Fame. And out of that group, I believe it's in my story today, I believe only 5 of them have also won a Super Bowl or NFL championship before the Super Bowl. And Kelce's done all those things. He's got the ultimate team goal. He's got the ultimate individual goals. He's durable. He reshaped the way the position is played. He's had a long career. If he doesn't get in, I don't know why that would be. To me, he's a Hall of Famer. I watch him play. I feel like I'm watching one of the greatest centers of all time.
Yeah. It's probably an imperfect way that Hall of Famers get chosen, but it's the best we have. And Ray was a part of that committee, so we'll ask him about Kelce in a little bit. I came up with a list of 7 players who might make their first Pro Bowl next year. If they don't make it this year, a few of them are alternates. Does it bother you or does it worry you at all that the Eagles have had 4 players named to the Pro Bowl in the last 2 years, and all 4 are over the age of 30?
Yeah, it does. And it would bother me more if I didn't think, some of their young players, you see Mulata and Goddard and Dickerson. They finally have some young players who are excelling. And that's what they didn't have. I mean, they still haven't drafted a Pro Bowler since Ertz and Lane. No, well, one other, but
who was the other one they drafted?
It was a quarterback out of like a 1AA school. Name slips my mind. But I mean, the last defensive player they drafted was Fletch, last defensive Pro Bowler. That was 9 years ago. So yeah, it's an issue, but I do think there are some guys in the pipeline who are going to change that and could change it in the next few weeks. We'll see.
Yeah. So let me go through the list here. I've come up with 7 names that I think are candidates to make their first Pro Bowl next year or maybe this year. Rank them for me if you can, Rube. Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Jordan Mailata, Javon Hargrave, Miles Sanders, Landon Dickerson, and Jake Elliott.
Boy, wide receiver is so competitive and so tough. You got to really put up huge numbers, which I'm not sure Devontae, as good as he is, will do in this offense. I'll say Goddard 1, Mulata 2, Miles 3. Kicking's weird because kicking's like non-linear. Like Elliott could miss 5 kicks next year and get cut. Kickers. So I'll put him at the bottom, but I'll go Goddard, Mulata, Miles, and then Devontae.
Miles ahead of Hargrave?
Yeah, Miles ahead of Hargrave. Okay. I'll go, Miles and then Hargrave and then Elliott. Was there one other one?
Dickerson. Interesting.
I mean, I think I'd probably put him in the middle there after Miles.
Okay.
It's tough for guards. Like guards need to play on a really good team. I mean, he's playing on the best O-line in the league.
Yeah. But they normally, it's like they get the recognition always at least a year or two too late. Like you have to do it for an extended period of time.
Yeah. And, and these guys need like if Peter King writes about you, we'll have to talk to Peter about, or I remember, I'll never forget Jermaine Mayberry, who was before your time, but, he was considered a first-round bust as a tackle. And he moved inside to guard. And he's having a really good year. And Peter King wrote this big thing about Jermaine Mayberry. And, he's so good at guard, he might make the Pro Bowl. And he made the Pro Bowl. I mean, that's the clout Peter King has. And he deserved it. But he made it as a guard. So if you can get one of those guys to get behind your case, Dickerson went to Alabama. He's a good story coming back from all the injuries. He was a high pick. So I think he's got some things going for him. Kelce talks about him a lot. I think he's got a shot, but I think, Miles and Goddard, if they play over a full season, how they have lately, they're Pro Bowlers. Mulata, to me, is a Pro Bowler now who just isn't, for whatever reason, hasn't been recognized. You would think with his story and his journey, people would. And
some of the impressive feats of strength he accomplishes with that frame, you would think he would get some more recognition.
Yeah. But, you look around and the teams that had the most Pro Bowlers were the teams that are, that are sitting here right now, 10-4, 9-5 and 11-3. And that's what the Eagles, if the Eagles can be in that position next year, they're going to have 5, 6, 7 Pro Bowlers. They just will. There's so much to explore in Valley Forge and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Montgomery County, composed of charming towns and main streets, each one with its own personality, style, and unique vibe. Whether you're looking to get away with your family or enjoy a special trip with friends, leave behind the stress of planning and use our guide to find some of the most amazing things to do. Explore which town and which main street suits you the best. Visit every one. Now write this down. MakeItMainStreet.com. MakeItMainStreet, one word.com to plan your getaway today.
Joining us now on the Eagle Eye podcast, as he does every week, our buddy Ray Didinger. Ray, first off, congratulations. You nailed the score in the Washington game. It was a tough week to nail the score.
Yeah, maybe I need this kind of week more often. It seems to sharpen my focus.
Ray is money on Tuesdays.
You're right about that. Although I didn't pick the Joe Webb game. I was on the wrong side of that one, unfortunately.
I still remember picking 48-3 in that game. The last time I picked 48-3.
Yeah. Probably a good idea. Well, thank you for that, David. I'm glad that somebody noticed.
Yeah, I did. And but let's start with that Washington game, because it got off to a start that had everyone in that building going, uh-oh, this is Joe Webb 2.0. This is going to happen again. But then the Eagles, they were the better team, and they proved it down the stretch. What were your takeaways, and what were you thinking in the moment after those 2 early turnovers?
Same thing as you. It was it just seemed to have that same creepy, weird kind of why are we playing on Tuesday night feel to it. The only thing missing was the weather forecast. I've been covering Eagles football for 50 years. I don't think I've ever seen an interception more bizarre than the one off of Dallas Goedert's heel to start the game. Then you have, the next series ends with, Jalen Hurts just making a really bad play, getting stripped and losing the ball. And then you see Nick Sirianni reaming him out on the sidelines. We've never seen that before. And then even the next series, the Eagles get the ball and they finally start to move it, and they get 2 big plays wiped out by holding penalties. And at that point, you're down 10-0, and you're starting to say, wait a minute, is this really going to get away from them? But I thought that, as you said, Dave, the Eagles were certainly the better team, and ultimately that showed over time. But I thought, if you ask me what my big takeaway was from the game, was that Hurts fought through it. I think that, he was coming off, and if you put it in context, he was coming off a terrible performance against the Giants. He's injured in that game, has to sit out a week and watch Gardner Minshew go out and play really well against the Jets, have 2 weeks of quarterback controversy, then the delay of the game, and then he goes out and starts this game about as badly as you could. And at that point, you just say, let's see what this guy's made of. I mean, I'm thinking that, let's see how he handles this. And he comes back after that, and they score on 5 of their next 6 possessions and win the game that was really never that close in the fourth quarter. And so I thought what I took away from it was I really thought that, I don't know if you would say statistically this was Jalen Hurts' best game or best performance, but I think it may have been the most important because it was basically an elimination game for this team if they're really thinking in terms of the postseason. And with all the pressure that was on the young quarterback, I thought he responded really, really well.
And he did it without really having the use of one of his better weapons, his feet. I mean, he ran a little bit, but you could tell he wasn't right. He wasn't 100%, certainly wasn't close to that running. And we were joking on the last podcast. It was like a poor man's Donovan against Arizona, when he was kind of forced to stay in the pocket and threw 4 touchdown passes. But it was similar in a way because I think that injury really made him hyper focused on being in the pocket and delivering the football, which he did really, really well. I thought what you just said really applies to the whole team. Let's see how they respond down 10-0. Do they panic? Do they try to get it all back at once? Do they get away from the things that got them where they are? But they just, you didn't see any of that. They just kept playing, they kept fighting, and they kept grinding. And, once they were moving the ball, you kind of felt like, well, look, Washington's not going to score a whole lot more points. They had 1 touchdown on a short field, then they had a field goal off another turnover, and they ended up getting that 1 drive in the fourth quarter. But even down 10-0, I like the way they responded. You don't want to be in that position, but once you are, like, how are they going to respond? And I thought the whole team did that really well.
I agree. And we said in the pregame show that given Washington's quarterback situation, Garrett Gilbert being this, like the accidental tourist who winds up coming through and having to play quarterback, you knew that they weren't going to be able to do much throwing the football, and they weren't going to ask him to do much throwing the football. It was really going to be how well can Washington run the ball, and can the Eagles shut down Antonio Gibson, who's a pretty good player. And I thought that the Eagles defense, they don't get a whole lot of credit in this game because everybody says, well, look at who was on the other side. But I thought the Eagles defense really played really good run defense. I mean, they really basically kind of took Gibson out of the game pretty early. And I think he didn't even average 2 yards a carry, like 1.7 per rushing attempt, when clearly that was what they were hoping to lean on. The Eagles never gave him that opportunity. And, over this last 7 games now, where we've talked a lot about how well the Eagles are running the ball, which they are, but sort of lost in all that is how well their defense is shutting down the other team's run. The first 7 games of this season, the Eagles gave up more than 100 yards rushing in every game. Since then, it's only happened once in the last 7 games, and they've cut their average yards rushing against almost in half over this period. So the run defense has really, really stepped it up.
Ray, I want to go back to something you mentioned a little bit ago. The moment where Jalen Hurts comes off the field after the fumble, Nick Sirianni reams him out. To me, that's got to be one of the biggest moments of this season, because you see something like that and your initial reaction is, oh, that's not good. That's frustration boiling over. That's after a mistake. And you wonder how all the parties involved are going to move forward from that. And then the fact that it ends up being kind of a positive in that win, that we find out Jalen wants to be coached like that. We find out Sirianni's comfortable enough to lay into him like that. I thought it really showed growth in their relationship. And it was, to me, another sign that maybe it's not perfect. Maybe Jalen's never going to be, an elite level quarterback, but this might work for another year if they have to run it back.
Yeah. I agree with you. When it happened, the moment that it happened, it's kind of funny. The TV guys didn't really quite pick up on it. But I sure did. And watching it with Seth Joyner and Barrett Brooks, we all saw it immediately and said, wow, I mean, Nick's really mad and really gave him an earful. And you didn't see Hurts react at all. I mean, he heard it for sure, but he didn't react. And then I'm thinking is, okay, how's this going to affect him at all? And you're right, Dave. I think in the end, what it proves is it's a real positive, because Hurts is sort of nonplussed by it. He just says, well, I remember reading a story about him back when he was at Alabama, when he first sort of gained prominence. And there was a magazine piece about him. And the interviewer was asking him what it was like to be a young quarterback playing under Nick Saban, who is certainly a tough coach and is tough on his players, regardless of their position. And Hurts made a point in the story. That was the first time I knew that he was the son of a coach. And that was exactly what he talked about. He said, well, I grew up playing football. I'm the son of a coach. I grew up playing with my father as my coach. And so my coach was with me 24/7. So I heard it plenty. And coaches will always coach their sons harder than they coach everybody else. So I'm used to it. So what Coach Saban and I, the relationship we have, is not unlike what I have with my father. And I always remembered that. And then when he came to the Eagles, I thought that was something that I think you develop a real certain mental toughness if that's the environment in which you grow up in and you play in as a kid. And he certainly carried that forward into college. And it's obvious he's carried it forward into the pros. And here you have this relationship between coach and quarterback, where Nick Sirianni comes from a football family and he's the son of a coach, and the quarterback is the son of a coach. And I think there's that level of understanding that it was clear that what happened Tuesday night was there was nothing personal. It was just football. And they both saw it as such. And I thought that the way he responded to it was a real positive thing.
Let me just take a wild guess. Seth liked it, right? He liked seeing Nick yelling.
He did.
Wild guess.
Because one of the things that Seth talked about was that he looks at it as another player on the team would look at it. And he says that the guys on the team want to see the quarterback treated like everybody else. And he said far too often in football, the coaches will be tough on the other players and demanding on the other players and call them out in a very visible sideline kind of way. But we don't do that with the quarterback. You've got to treat the quarterback different. We don't want to hurt the quarterback's feelings. And Seth has always felt that too many quarterbacks are coddled that way. And he thinks that the other players on the team, and he certainly felt like that was the relationship that the coaches had with Randall, and that never sat well with Seth. And he said he thinks the other guys on the team respond to that when they see, hey, you know what, quarterback here on this team, the quarterback is treated the same as everybody else, and that's a good thing. So yeah, to your point, Reuben, Seth picked up on it immediately and said, well, first of all, it's two things. Okay, let's see how he handles it. Let's see how he responds. And then in the aftermath, when you saw that he played as well as he did the rest of the game, he said it was a good thing for Hurts, but it's also a good thing because it sends a good message to the rest of the team.
Right. The run game right now is unbelievable. I mean, truly unbelievable. 7 straight games with 175 plus yards. They've had injuries. They've had different guards, different running backs in there, and it doesn't seem to matter. It wasn't that long ago we were all sitting here talking about, is Nick ever going to run the ball? And now no one can stop them from running the ball. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, right now, you look at, there are some teams in the league right now that are running the ball really well. Indianapolis is running the ball really good. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he won't win the MVP probably, but
I think he might, Ray.
You think?
I think he might.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, what is it, 14 of the last 15 years, quarterbacks have won it, and Rodgers is having a really good year. I tell you, if I had a vote, I would vote for Taylor. I just kind of think the preponderance of the way these things go, they generally tend to go towards the quarterback. But if I had a vote, I don't. But if I did, I would vote for Taylor. But if you look at the way things are going in Indianapolis, the way that offensive line is playing, the way Taylor is running, I mean, they're clearly winning with the running game. They're not winning because of the quarterback. And here, I mean, this team has taken its whole season and done a U-turn, really on the strength of their running game. And you mentioned the numbers, Dave. I mean, in this 7-game streak, I mean, they're not putting up 100 yards a game. They're putting up 200 yards a game. I mean, in the 7 games, it's like 1,500 yards. They're averaging over 200. They're averaging over 200 yards a game. The backs are playing really well, but it really does start with the guys up front. I mean, they're playing tremendous football. And I thought, and Seth and I talked about it a lot during the game Tuesday night, I thought that was Sirianni's best game as a play caller. I thought the way he mixed up the runs, there's people sometimes have this idea that running the football is it's so simplistic. It's only one thing. You're running the football, it's one thing, and it's not. I mean, there's as much variety and diversity in a good running game as there is in a good passing game. You do a lot of different things, different blocking schemes, different formations, motion. It doesn't just have to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And the Eagles are showing that. They're a tough team to defend against the run because there's a lot of nuance to what they're doing running the ball. And I mean, you see these backs. I mean, they're 5-6 yards downfield before there's any contact. I mean, and that's, the offensive line is just playing great. You got to give credit to those guys up front. And I guess you have to give a lot of credit to Jeff Stoutland, who's done a tremendous job preparing these guys and prepare them every week, and have to compensate for injured players and make different combinations there. And they still maintain that high level of effectiveness. It's really been something to see. It really has. I mean, football, the game of football, it changes, but in some ways it doesn't change. And if you win at the line of scrimmage, chances are you're going to win the game. I mean, that really is where it's won. And right now, the Eagles play at the offensive line has been, it's been as good as I have seen. It really has been. It's been outstanding.
Two things are striking to me. Number one, and Dave alluded to this, they're on their third left guard. Sua Opeta has made his third start of his life. Nate Herbig, they're on their fourth right guard. And there's games Miles has missed. There's games Jordan has missed. They've had different quarterbacks. They've played some of the best run defenses in the league. Washington's number 4, and they had most of their D-line back by Tuesday. And it keeps rolling. It's almost like, that all these different pieces coming and going, and they keep doing it, which speaks volumes about Kelce, Mulata, and Lane, and the backs, and Stoutland, and Sirianni with the play calling. The other thing that's striking to me is during this 7-game stretch, and this is amazing, they haven't had a run longer than 37 yards, and that was Miles the other night. So, you see teams that have a really high, like Miles last year, he had the 3 long runs, and his average for the year is about what it is now, but he's having a much better year now because he's just grinding out the yards. He's getting the 8s and the 10s and the 12s. And to be averaging 5 as a team, what are they, 5.1, 5.2, and averaging 164 yards a game without a long run, it's incredible to me. And it speaks volumes about the consistency. And you got to give Howie Roseman credit for finding guys like, Opeta and Herbig and Driscoll was a 4th-round pick. They just keep putting these backup linemen in there, and for the most part, they're all excelling. It's really been remarkable to watch.
Yeah, it has been, and you're right. I hadn't really thought about the fact that there aren't a sprinkling of 60 and 70-yard runs in there. I mean, they're piling up these numbers in those 8, 9, 10-yard chunks, but they're getting them consistently. And you're seeing little by little, week by week, Nick's incorporating new things in the running game just to keep other teams sort of off balance a little bit. I mean, they went with some 2-back formation here, that sort of like pony backfield thing a little bit, just to give the other team something to look at and something to think about it. I heard I was on with DeCamera and Richie today, and we had a guy. Yeah, we had a guy call up and just sort of poo-poo this whole, the Eagles, it's fool's gold. Look at it, they're beating a lot of bad teams, and Washington, they were all depleted. They didn't have any other players. I said, well, wait a minute. The Eagles won this game by running the football. Washington had pretty much their whole front 7 intact. They had some issues on offense for sure, and they were missing a couple guys in the secondary. But the real strength of their defense has all year been that front 7, and they had them, and the Eagles just pushed them around. So the idea that they took advantage of a sickly team, In some ways, maybe so. But in what really determined the game, the Eagles' ability to run the ball, they were running at the Redskins' strength, and they still were getting much the better of it. And, it doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter now who they line up with. I mean, whatever they put out there, those guys have played just tremendous football. And I think we've talked a couple times over the course of the year about how well Kelce has played this year. I mean, this might be his best year. I mean, in terms of his week in and week out performance.
Yeah.
And the responsibility that's been placed on him to try and keep all these new young guys together with all the stuff that he does at the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped. A lot of responsibility on him. I was really glad. I mean, I was pretty confident he would, but I was really glad to see him get another Pro Bowl bid because there's no question he absolutely deserved it.
Right, we were just talking a little bit ago about Kelce and his Hall of Fame candidacy. I wanted to ask you before we move to the Giants about that. You were a Hall of Fame voter for a while. Is this a slam dunk? I mean, are we watching a Hall of Fame player?
Yeah, I think we are. In my mind, you are. I mean, he has been so good for so long, and to be playing at this level of football at 34, pretty remarkable. I mean, he's doing things. We've all talked and we've seen over time his athleticism, his ability to be almost like a third guard and be able to pull and block on the outside, and his ability to get up and block on the second level and, be downfield throwing blocks. It's, when you're a younger player, the really good centers can do that, but you don't expect to see a 34-year-old center doing that, but he is, and he's doing it on a consistent basis. And, he's played through some aches and pains this year, but he's playing great. And in terms of the communication and what he does, just setting the line before the ball is snapped is just so valuable. And yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the Hall of Fame thing with him. And I absolutely think that he's done enough with 5 Pro Bowls now to be in that discussion when it's all said and done and he finally retires in that waiting period and you start putting that list together. He's going to have to be talked about. And, I always, when I was a Hall of Fame voter, I always used to try and compare guys who were coming up for Hall of Fames and think about guys who were already in the Hall of Fame and how do those two guys kind of equate. And to me, Kelce is I think he's very much like Kevin Mawai. I've really always liked Kevin Mawai. I liked him in Seattle. When I was at NFL Films, I did the Jets highlight film for a number of years when he was a Jet. So I went through all their footage, and I just over and over again just was amazed at how good Mawai was. He was a lot like Kelce in the way he played and being able to move and make plays all over the field. I see a real similarity there, but I actually think Kelce's better. And now Kevin Mawai went in the Hall of Fame, and if he's in the Hall of Fame, then I think Jason Kelce is certainly in the discussion. And with the career that he's had, yeah, I mean, I right now, I would tell you, I think he's going to go in. And I think you're probably going to wind up with 2 Kelces in there because I don't think there's much doubt his brother's going to go in. So, the Mannings may be the first brothers to go into the Hall of Fame, probably will. But I think the Kelces are going to be there too.
I've always made that argument. If Aeneas Williams is in, Eric Allen has to be in, but it hasn't got me anywhere yet. It blows my mind that Aeneas Williams got in, I think, his 3rd year. And Eric Allen, I think he's never been a finalist yet. He could be this year, but to me, Eric Allen was the better player. That's conversation for another day.
No, Rube, I agree with you. I agree with you on that one. I've had the same discussion with some people, exactly the same discussion. Aeneas Williams and Eric Allen, contemporaries, played in the same division, played the same position. And if you asked me to pick, and I think Aeneas Williams was a terrific player, I really do. But if you asked me to pick one, I would take Eric Allen. And I've had the same discussion about Bill Bergey and Harry Carson. 2 guys played the same position, same time, same division, basically the same schedule. I saw them both. Harry Carson's in the Hall of Fame and probably should be. But if he is, Bill Bergey should be too. Same kind of argument.
So, Ray, we have just a couple days before the Eagles play again. My internal schedule has been very weird this week. I don't know what day it is. and then you throw the holiday in, and I'm really confused. But
I forgot to take out the garbage because the garbage is that Wednesday, and I thought it was on Wednesday. I thought it was Monday because they played Sunday. Yeah,
we're such creatures of habit, which I mean, players are too. So that's why a Tuesday game can be so damaging. But as you look ahead now to the Giants, it's fun. Less than a month ago, the Giants beat the Eagles, and here the Eagles are 10-point favorites in this game. What do you make of it? I mean, is there any potential for a repeat of what we saw at MetLife a few weeks ago?
Turn the ball over 4 times. Could be. That was the key to that game. And in the NFL, I mean, we've all said it. We all know it. If you turn the ball over 4 times, you're going to lose. If you're that careless and that sloppy. So could that happen? Yeah, it could. I don't foresee it. I mean, I can't. Listen, if you lose twice in one season to the Giants, then you have no business even talking about the playoffs. Okay, I mean that's we'll just end that discussion right there. If you lose to this Giants team twice in one season, no, you have no business even thinking about the playoffs. But Joe Judge has not said who his quarterback is going to be this week. I have to think it's going to be Fromm. I mean, he's trying to play it coy and not help, name the guy. But
you think Coy's going to start
after what we've seen, after what we've seen of Glennon, Mike Glennon, the last 3 weeks, I can't imagine they're going to run him out there again. So I think it's going to be Fromm. I just can't imagine. It's almost a Gilbert-like situation. He's new to the team, new to the offense. They can't ask him to do very much. And, we've seen Saquon Barkley this year. I mean, he's nothing like he was 2 years ago. I can't see the Giants scoring any points. Unless the Eagles turn the ball over enough that they hand them a bunch of points, I can't see the Giants sustaining much offense. So, I don't know how much the Eagles will score, but I think if they hit double digits, that'd probably be enough.
Well, go ahead and pick the score exactly, Ray. Come on.
Well, I tried earlier today, and I said 20-10. So I will stick with that.
What's interesting? The last quarterback to beat the Eagles twice in a season was Eli Manning in 2007.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they just haven't swept them that much, and the rare times they have, it's been different guys. But it's been 14 years, and obviously that's not going to happen. Not going to happen again. But I think you're right, Glennon. And I remember Glennon from Tampa. I mean, he wasn't good, but he wasn't this bad. But
he got a big contract.
Yeah,
in the league.
Can't run him out there again. So I think it'll be Jake from State Farm or whatever his name is.
I read one story this week that said that his winning percentage is the lowest in NFL history for a quarterback who has played X number of games. We're not talking about guys who are like 0 for 2. If you played a certain number of games, I think Glennon's winning percentage is the lowest of any player, perhaps like in the modern era.
I can't confirm that, but I'll agree. Based on what I've seen, that checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, his record's something like 9-27 or something. It's pretty bad, and he's been particularly bad these last 3 games for the Giants. I mean, the game against the Cowboys, he was, three really bad interceptions. He can't get away from the rush. He's just, I don't see any way they can put him back out there. So yeah, I think it's going to be Fromm. All
right, Ray, we appreciate your time. We will talk to you next week. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family.
Happy holidays to you guys, David. I love the hat.
Give our best to the dog.
Yeah, I will. I'm going out to see him right now. Thanks a lot, guys. I will see you Sunday.
Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership. Along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA, get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, visit AAA.com/Eagles. Hey, it's the Nissan year-end sales event with last chance offers you'll want to hang on to. Shop your local Nissan store or visit nissanusa.com today. Got to hang on to those deals before they slip away.
Thanks, as always, to Ray Didinger for joining us. Rube, this is our first podcast since Wednesday's news. Nick Sirianni tested positive for COVID. He is in a hotel somewhere away from the team, conducting everything virtually. How big of a deal is this? I mean, it seems like we have everything in place for him to be able to do it, but it is different.
It is, and we've seen other teams, function without their coach. Doug was in the protocol last year. It was during training camp. I think it was before the season. But you saw this. You see the Saints go out and play without Sean Payton. I really believe so much of coaching. The hay's in the barn. Like we like to say. I don't think it's a huge deal sitting here in week 16. I think things are rolling along. They know how to practice. Everyone understands their roles. Shane Steichen is going to call the plays if Nick's not back. And it's a team that you just saw a couple of weeks ago, so you're familiar with them. It's not ideal, but I don't think it's a huge thing. You just hope you hope he's okay. He said he was already feeling better at the end of the day. We talked to him mid-afternoon on Wednesday. He said he's already starting to feel a little bit better. He didn't look good, but then he never looks good the day after a game anyway, right? Yeah. So hope he's okay. Hope he's back. He still has a chance to get cleared. I think it's kind of unlikely, but there is a shot with the new protocols to return. But I think they'll be okay if he's not there.
Yeah, the other thing, aside from Steichen calling the plays, Kevin Patullo would take over. He's the passing game coordinator. He would take over as like the head coach decision maker. So, throwing the red flag, accepting or declining penalties, all that type of thing, Patullo would take care of. Yeah, I mean, they have these plans in place, and they've been upfront about, hey, we have a plan for just about everything. If anyone goes down, we are preparing for that. It's kind of the world we've been living in. And it seemed like for a lot of this year, they wouldn't have to use any of those plans, but yeah, here we are. On a human element, man, I just feel bad for him. He's got young kids at home. He's probably not going to be home for Christmas. Like, that just sucks. You feel for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it was sad. I mean, we don't know where his hotel is, but he was, he did a Zoom call with us on Wednesday, and there's like that, the really bad painting in the background, the really bad, hotel, like, artwork. And
I bet that's like a Tumblr somewhere, is like hotel artwork. Just,
yeah, he's probably getting like, door dashing, for getting his dinner from DoorDash. And but that's the reality. That's where we are right now. And but yeah, that aspect of it is really sad. He's got young kids, and won't be there Saturday. But hopefully he's better. Hopefully he's cured. Not cured. That's not the word. But hopefully he's gets through this as easy as possible and is back with the team.
Yeah. What did you make about, he kind of, in his press conference, he said it like so nonchalantly that him and Shane Steichen have been calling the plays together all year. And we all, what? What do you mean you've been calling the plays together all year?
Yeah, it was an odd deal in a lot of ways. Because he said, obviously Shane and I have been calling the plays all year, and obviously, wait a minute, you've never. And he's talked about play calling a lot, especially the first 6 weeks when the play calling wasn't good. I guess he didn't want to say, well, Shane's doing it. He didn't want to throw him under the bus. But even since then, every reference to play calling has been about himself. He's never corrected anybody who's asked him about play calling. He's never mentioned Shane.
And the only thing we knew for sure was that Shane's voice was going to the quarterback. We knew that like it was being relayed, and that's the way they've done it all year. But I don't think we understood. I still don't think we truly understand the full extent of what the breakdown is. And I think that's probably on purpose to shield people.
Competitive advantage. But I asked him, I said, how can two people call plays? And he went into a long, fairly detailed explanation that it was long, but it was a little vague still. But it sounded like what he was saying is, we have a menu of plays, and before each drive, we know what we want to do on 3rd and 3. We know what we want to do on 1st and 10. We know what the plays are, and Shane's the one who's calling them in to the quarterback. And it sure sounded to me like Shane is actually choosing which play is being run on which particular snap, and they're collaborating between series when the defense is on the field, halftime, before the game, on what that menu is going to be like. All right, what do you want to do on the next drive? What do you want to do on in these situations? So they come up and they have a play card. So they're taking the plays that they want to run off that menu and whittling it down to, a handful of plays. But it sure sounded to me like he was saying that Shane is making the ultimate decision. It sounded like more than just relaying them from Nick to the quarterback, but it sounded like he was taking the particular play from that menu, that group of maybe 6 plays that they came up with during the break, and picking which one was going to be run at that particular time. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing they're about to play another football game?
Yeah. What's today? Thursday?
Today's Thursday.
Game in 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's a lot physically. I know they're coming off a long, bye and a half, really, a long 16-day break, but it is late in the season. And a Sunday game after a Tuesday night game isn't ideal. And, there's some older players on this team. I think one thing Nick is really good at is keeping these guys off their feet. Wednesday practices have been walkthroughs for the last month or so. Obviously, there's no Wednesday practice this week. They came in and lifted. They'll have a walkthrough today, being Thursday, and then they'll have a practice Friday. It'll probably be an hour long, an hour and 10 minutes, and and that's it. But I think this team has stayed healthy. I think that the shorter training camp practices, I think all this stuff has paid off. All this, it's different. It's but you see guys like, Fletch and Kelce and the older guys, Slay and Lane, Rodney, they're all playing fine. They all look good. They're all fairly healthy as you would, expect them to be. I'm sure they're all banged up, but that's a challenge. That's a physical challenge. And I think they're going to be okay. The game that scares me is the next week, is that Washington game. That's the one game. I think the season is going to come down to that game. I think they'll be able to get through the Giants fairly easily. But that game looming a week from Sunday, I think that's, Washington will be back closer to full strength. And I have this light, the shaft of light is like trying to, I feel like someone's shooting a laser at me. But yeah, it's just another thing to overcome. But, this team seems pretty good at doing that.
They do. All right. You got anything else before we wrap this up?
Well,
I am sweating. I committed to wearing this stupid Santa hat, and now we're an hour in, and I need to get it off real bad.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to explain what I think the holiday season should mean to all of us. And I go back to my old grandpa, Henry Gisser, and, back in the 30s. All right.
If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click like and subscribe there as well. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus for the rest of us.
Happy Festivus, everybody. Absolutely.
Yeah. Take care. This has been the Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan. For Reuben, I'm Dave. We'll talk to you after the game on Sunday.